Thank you so much for having me here, and also thank you to all the other readers whose work I felt so fortunate to hear. I'm going to read from my novel Pigs, out just a month ago. Pigs is a novel in the fabulous tradition. It follows the lives of 4 children who live on an island that serves as a repository for all the world's garbage. The children are charged with gathering up the garbage and feeding it to a herd of giant magical pigs. And when a barrel arrives with a boy inside, and the children have to decide if he's one of them or if he's garbage also, the story gets going. So I'm going to read a little bit from the first chapter, a little bit from a chapter that talks about the garbage, and then I'm going to end with a moment of sincere happiness. All right. The pigs ate everything. Kitchen scraps, bitter lettuce from the garden, the stale and sticky contents of lunch boxes kids brought home from school, toenail clippings, hairballs pulled up from the drain. After the pigs were done, there weren't even any teeth left over, not even any metal from cavities filled long ago. They lived in a pen out back. The land was rocky but spacious, and the pen had been tucked in a corner out of sight for more years than any of the children could remember. It was made out of wood, gray splintered boards nailed together in a haphazard way. Every 5 feet, the wood was anchored by posts. When you stood by the fence, the pigs lumbered over, grunting, and stuck their snouts out between the rickety slats. It wasn't always that they expected food. Sometimes they just wanted their snouts scratched. Sometimes they just grunted happily and settled back down in the shade. There were 6 of them. They never fought. They seemed to smile when you approached, but you had to be quick. If you brought a bucket of slop and poured it out too slowly without moving your hand away, you never knew what could happen. Louisa was missing a finger. Not an important one, just her left hand pinky where she hadn't moved away quickly enough one hot summer afternoon when she was feeding them shoes. It was summer every afternoon there, soft and lazy and slow. The pinky came off in one clean bite before she even realized what was happening. She left with a feeling of shame, like it had been her fault the pig grabbed her finger. She wrapped her hand in her skirt and kept her mouth shut, and the stub didn't start hurting until she lay down for the night. The land was actually an island. The island was surrounded by water that glinted green in the sun and clouded to gray in the shade. Some might have let the pigs run free, feral among the scrubby bushes. The pigs could have rooted happily for mushrooms or truffles, found entire brambles of berries to eat, and maybe left the children alone. They could have gobbled up the world's entire detritus without anyone's help, but the grown-ups preferred the pigs confined. They preferred the relative safety of the fence. Louisa had lived on the island for forever, or for as long as she could remember, which was the same as forever. There were other children too, 3 of them. Andrew, who sang in his sleep and had straw-colored hair. Mimi, who was older, or at least taller than the rest, and who liked to pretend she knew much more about the world than anyone else, and who couldn't grow her hair long no matter how hard she tried. There was even a toddler. They called her Natasha. Her head was covered with loose blonde curls. She couldn't have been more than 3, and she giggled every time she heard the grunting of the pigs. They were all afraid of the gray water, of the sea in a mood of despair. It wrapped the island like a scarf made of grief. It made you choke with tears to touch it. So I'm going to leave that there, the first chapter. And throughout the novel, I have a series of chapters that kind of ask us to think about perspective. From a distance, seen from above, the island was shaped like a kidney. It had a wide curved side and a long indented side and 2 shorter, rounder ends. From sea level, it looked like a perfectly shaped mountain. all of it rising to the same angle, at the same angle to a peak at its very center. There wasn't any control room anywhere, no master plan for the magic island that served as the world's dump. It just was, and people just knew about it if they thought about it at all. And ships just brought their stuff there as if by instinct. Plastic bottles, because no one trusted tap water, fur coats that were splashed with paint, television screens that simply weren't flat enough, weight loss in weight loss competitions, mothers' wedding dresses that daughters had no interest in wearing, toothpaste samples from the dentist, love poems written by boyfriends long ago. The ships brought it and slipped it into the water when no one was watching, and once in the water, it vanished completely. Spools of film that no one remembered how to process, dolls with broken arms, income tax information that went back more than 7 years, half-eaten cupcakes, half-read novels, shrunken sweaters, chipped teacups. From the outside, with perspective, it all looked smooth and beautiful. The island's perfect peak, the sun forever setting or forever rising, and never stuck at punishing noonday height. But on the island itself, where even the idea of perspective did not exist, everything arrived in its particularity. From the island, it was the ships that seemed a single entity. What was discarded was unique. Who discarded it was not. And then finally, to end our evening, a moment of happiness. And this is about halfway through when the children take a break from their normal day. The children hopped from rock to rock along the fire ring Otis had dragged together. They ran just to the edge of the water and pressed their feet into the soft, wet sand and ran away laughing when the ocean threw a wave in close to them. They used the sticks that had formed the lean-to as javelins. Pitching them one after another across a line, they scraped in the sand. They shrieked like ocean birds, the shrieks of joy. Louisa spread her arms out and zoomed around the campsite like she was a giant gull. She was ready to fly out to sea, catch a fish, maybe circle back, maybe keep on going. Her arms flapped in wide, deep strokes. Natasha huddled against a rock that had once been a bench, and Mimi crouched on top of it, and Natasha grabbed at her ankles like she was a little monster. Mimi giggled each time Natasha grabbed her, and she sounded like a little girl instead of like the moody teenager she found herself becoming more and more. She pulled herself up straight and turned into a sea captain and shouted instructions to her crew, and then the monster grabbed her again and she jumped off the rock laughing. Andrew tossed stick after stick, and the sticks were lances now, and he was a knight. He rode horses and beheaded dragons and went to the Holy Land on crusade. From a distance, all 4 children became a single laughing creature, all part of a tangled body that breathed in the salty air of the sea and the golden light of the sun, and breathed out messy, chaotic laughter. Thank you.